control, aksha, senses, asu, the life air, man, the mind, buddhi, intelligent, tattvadrik, one who knows the tattvas, the material and the spiritual energy. Vasta bandhana, liberated from bondage. Astika, being situated in Parama, the supreme. Yogam, absorption, trance. Na, not. Deham, the material body. Ubudhe, received. Gatam, left. Translation by Srila Prabhupada: the Dichi Muni controlled his senses, life force, mind and intelligence, and became absorbed in trance. Thus he cut all his material bondage. He could not perceive how his material body became separated from the self. So please repeat this after me. The Dichi Muni controlled his senses, life force, mind and intelligence, and became absorbed in trance. Thus he cut all his material bondage. He could not perceive how his material body became separated from his soul. The Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, we go to the Prabhupada and I'll explain as we go along. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 5, Antakale chame eva samram nikya kalevaram ye prapti samad bhavan yati nasti katha samsaya. Whoever at the time of death keeps his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So in this verse, what is the main thing that is being said is that when you become a devotee, when you are in Krishna consciousness, when you leave this body, because at the end of the day, that's the goal. The goal is how we leave our body, how we quit this body. And here, the deity leaves the body without even realizing that he has left his body. Usually, I don't know how many of you have actually seen people dying. And I've seen people, both kind of people dying, those who are devotees and who are non-devotees. And there's a big difference. Usually you see people who are non-devotees, when they leave their body, they are horrified. People even pass urine and stool at that time. You can see they scream, they ask for help. Right? And you can see from their faces how much fear is there. But at the same time, if you see a devotee leave the body, they're very peaceful. They got a smile on their face. I went to a funeral of a devotee, Yadunath Prabhu, and there was a little kid there. He was probably about 8-9 years. And his parents were trying to avoid him to see the body because when he saw his grandfather passed away, he was really scared. Right? And then he somehow or the other peeped into it, and everybody is quiet because it's a funeral place, and he says, he doesn't look that bad. He looks very happy, He's not like our grandfather, So little kid, he could see the expression, the smile on the face of a devotee, and he left his body because a devotee doesn't mind. He knows it's better place to go now. So this is what we are trying to understand today. And the main thing is that how to leave the body. And you only can leave that body in that way if you are Krishna conscious. Right, so today's verse will be more or less trying to understand what Bhakti Yoga is. In this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. So this is the point. As we said, death is the final exam. So we have to understand how to pass that exam. And how to pass that exam is, you have to be Krishna conscious. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. Nice example is, if you put an iron in a fire, what happens to the iron? It becomes like fire, right? It becomes hot. It takes the quality of the fire. So if you are always thinking of Krishna, and because Krishna is purest of the pure, he is 100% pure, then we also become pure. Right? And unless we are pure, we can't go back to Godhead. Right? Impurity means we have got some material attachment. Purity means that we have understood our true constitutional position, that we are servant of Krishna and we are prepared to go back to Godhead. The word Shamran, remembrance, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who is not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. So it is not possible for one who is not impure, who is impure. So to become pure, you have to be Krishna consciousness. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. Now, a lot of time we think, we ask people, say, oh yeah, don't worry, let me do what I have to do now. When I get old, then I'm going to devote myself to Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says, no, you have to start from very beginning. Most of you are young here, who are younger than me. It's no fun when you get started, getting older. Everything starts giving up. So I was very fortunate that I was able to do a bit when I was young. When I had the energy, when I had, I could do what I wanted to do. So don't leave it this to the end. If I had to do the same thing that I did previously, I won't be able to do it. The body is, deteriorating as we advance, in age. If one wants to achieve success at the end of the life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. So again, same thing, remembrance of Krishna, how to be Krishna conscious. Therefore, one should constantly and instantly chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are different processes. You can know the bhakti, you can do different things, Samran, Kirtanam and things like that. Of all of them, this is the easiest. Because chanting of the holy name can be done anytime. Right? Just like Rupa Goswami has given us 5 very important things that we should do. Right? One of them is accepting the spiritual master. Right? And then that's basically sadhu sangha. Right? The other one is chanting the holy name of the Lord, living in the dham, deity worship. What is the 5th one?
Staying in the holy place.
Yeah, staying in the dham, chanting the holy name, association. Right? So these are all very important, right? Now, I was just thinking, a lot of people listen to the class, on the, what do you call it? YouTube or whatever, right? That's very nice. You're at least listening to the class. But the association is missed here. Right? When you come in here, sit down and you listen to a class, I'm not talking about Masal. You get association of Srila Prabhupada. You get association of Gaunitai. You get association of Radha Ballabha, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, and all the devotees here. And it becomes more sweet. So by listening to the class, if you can't do it, but if you are in a position to do it, please come and sit down in the Prabhupada made this, Of all the process, if you read all the different scriptures and everything, listening of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the highest. I was listening to Radha Govinda Maharaj and he was explaining, he said, how important listening to Bhāgavatam is. He said once Narad Muni went to Vrindavan and he saw a lady there, an old lady and 2 of his children. The old lady was Bhaktivedanta and the 2 children were knowledge and renunciation. Right? Jnana and Vairagya. And these 2 were old. Right? Because in Kali Yuga, people don't have knowledge, they don't have any renunciation. Right? And then Narad Muni asked, how come you are young, you are the mother and your 2 kids are old, and they were basically lying down on the ground, And Bhakti Devi said, as Kali Yuga progressed, there was no bhakti anywhere. So I came to Vrindavan, and Vrindavan is place of bhakti, right? So I became effulgent and young, But my 2 sons, they still like that, Because in Vrindavan, there is no renunciation, There is no place for jnanis there. It's all bhakti there, right? So Narada Muni said, okay, I'll try to help you. Then he went through the whole Vedas and nothing happened, He even chanted Bhagavad Gita and they would get little bit of relief. Then he got, just like, okay, what do I do? What can I do, right? Then he went to Brahma, but Brahma was too busy. Then finally he went to say, okay, let me go to Badrikashram, And when he went there, the 4 Kumaras were there. And the Kumara says, Narad, your road is so peaceful, What happened today? And Narad says, this is my problem, I tried everything, I read the Vedas and everything, and the Kumara smiled, And he says, Narad Muni, when Vedvyas had the same problem, you told him what to do, Now, it's amazing that Krishna has put you into this, situation where you forget. And he said, what do I do? He said, read Bhagavatam. And when Narad Muni did that, the devotees, those 2 people also became there. Because Bhagavatam not only gives you bhakti, it gives you everything in there. As I'll cover in a little bit later on, how bhakti has everything in there. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one should be tolerant as a tree. Tarovi Sahi Suna. What does this mean? That there will be a lot of impediments that are going to come in our life. There will be always obstacles there. Right? First thing, that we have got so many desires. And also Maya Devi wants to keep us here. Right? So a lot of obstacles that are going to come. But you should be, tolerate everything. And then you should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So this should be a motto of your life, You should take a chanting bag everywhere you go. Doesn't matter where you go, You chant in the 16 hours. If somebody is talking nonsense, put your hands in the chanting bag. As soon as you put your hands in the chanting bag, you're going to start chanting. Right? So the more you chant it all the time, the chances are you'll be able to chant, My daughter was asking, I can't sleep. I said, the way to sleep is chanting. Because what happens is that the reason we can't sleep is because our mind is all over the place. But if you start chanting, the mind gets calmed down and then you can fall off asleep. I tried this and it does work. So anybody who has sleeping problem, this is the solution. You don't have to go to a psychiatrist. Prabhupada has given us everything in there. So what is the thing? How do we come to that stage of the Dichi? The way he left his body, that it was pain-free. He even didn't realize that he was leaving his body. Of course, one must practice before one is overcome by death. But the perfect yogi, namely the devotee, dies in trance thinking of Krishna. So that's the idea, to think of Krishna. If you think of Krishna, then what happens? You go to Krishna. You think about a woman, then you take a life in the body of a woman. Or, whatever you desire. If you are so attached to your house, who knows, you might become a wreck in there. He does not feel his material body being separated from his soul. The soul is immediately transferred to the spiritual Lord. Taksha deha punarjanma naiti mam eti. The soul does not enter the womb of a material mother, but is transferred back to Godhead. This is a big thing, The soul does not enter the womb of a mother. We do not realize what we have been through when we are in 9 months in there. Bhagavatam gives some of the ideas. It was so painful, right, that Krishna made us forget, because we will not be able to live our life. We'll need a continuous, psychiatrist help if we actually remember everything. Just imagine, stuck in a small place, head twisted, you're tied in there, drying, living in your own stool and urine, basically, beaten by all, bugs, you can't do anything. And then when the mother eats all the spicy stuff and everything, it becomes more problem, right? That's what the life is, And then if you don't want to live there, go through that again, please become Krishna consciousness. To become Krishna consciousness, you need 2 things. You need attachment and you need detachment. So it has to come to a stage where you say, okay, I don't want any of this. That's one of the things, Usually jnanis are at that stage. I don't want any of this. material thing, right? So they go there, but they don't know, they're not attached, they don't have the other part of the solution. So unless you have both, you don't go to Krishna Lord. You get stuck somewhere here, right? This yoga, Bhakti Yoga, is the highest yoga system, as explained by the Lord Himself. Yoginam api sarvesham mad gatendra antara atmana shardhavam bhajate imam same yuktam atmano mata. And all the yogis, and of all the yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, think only of him within me and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimate united with me in yoga, and he is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So this is Krishna's opinion. Again, same thing, One is always thinking of Krishna, one is doing devotional service. And how is the service done? In loving. That's the most thing. It has to be favorable and loving, right? Thinking is also has to be the same way. It has to be in a favorable mode. Right? Kamsa was also thinking of Krishna all the time. But was it favorable? Yashoda Maya, beat Krishna up, scared Krishna with a stick. But was it favorable? Right? So one is devotional service, the other one is not devotional service. So it always has to be favorable in that sense. The word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has his roots in the word bhaj, which is used when there is a need of service. So service is the most important thing, Just like we say we worship, there's another terminology. Worship is not the right word. Worship basically means you can worship demigods, you can worship other human beings, right? But bhajate means to worship or to serve the Lord. So that is very important. Service is very. We all serve, Mother serves children, Husband serves wife, the family in there. So we have this constitutional position. It's inbuilt in us. It's in our genes to serve. But when we do not serve the right person, then it becomes a problem. That the question must be asked, I got children, how do I, what do I stop serving them and just come to the temple and serve Krishna? No, it's all about consciousness. What does that mean? That if you understand that everybody here is a devotee of Krishna, everyone, the child who has been given to you as Krishna to make them devotees. Because they say you should not become a mother or a father unless you can liberate the child. Right? What does that mean? That means you have to raise the children in Krishna consciousness. If you are doing that, then you are not raising your own kid. Because the truth is, nobody is ours. All this relation in this material world is bodily relationship. The way we live this body, all the relationship is finished. If we come to that state. So the way to see everything is that everything belongs to Krishna and we are serving in Krishna. So if you can use something in Krishna's service, accept it. If it is unfavorable, then reject it. So that is the important thing. Right? So if your children are favorable and they're in Krishna consciousness, you can, when they're little, you can use them, but once they grow older, if they go their own way, then what can you do? Everybody is an individual, they have their own way. So you should do your duty without attachment for the result. A lot of people get affected so badly, when the children grow up and then move out. They always say they will be there for them for all their life. They're going to look after them. This is one of the expectations. When they grow up, they move out. And then you say, where did I go wrong, How come they're not looking after me? But we are all individuals, I left my parents and I should expect my children to live with me, That's the way it is, Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. This is basically what is the difference between somebody who is Krishna conscious and who is not, is that if you do what you are supposed to do. So first thing you have to understand is that you are part and parcel of Krishna, right? You're not the whole. Krishna is the whole. We are part and parcel of the Krishna, right? I work at the airport, so I'll give you an example. Somebody told me there are millions of parts that are used in an aeroplane, right? They're small balls that are so small, right? It's only good, the value of that bolt is only good if it is part of the aeroplane. The day it's taken out is thrown. It's useless, right? A spark in a flame, when it's on separated, it goes out. And when it's together, it's bright and warm. It does. So same thing. If you are serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? If you are working with Him, you are serving Him, then you have some value. Otherwise, it's all useless. Srila Prabhupada said, anybody who is Krishna conscious, there's a piece of value, as devotee. Otherwise, they're useless, just like that little boat, Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the Primal Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. So Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 5, verse 3 says this. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the Primal Lord, Krishna, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. So first thing is that you have to render service and it is your duty to do it. So one must always do his duty. That's what the scriptures say. Otherwise what happens? Bhagavad Gita says, Avajanti mam mudha. So you become a fool. Only the fools and rascals deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Right? So you don't want to be called a fool. I'm not saying that. Krishna is saying that. That if you don't want to be classified in the group of the fool, then you serve him with love and devotion. So the culmination of all yogas, all kinds of yoga practice lies in Bhakti Yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of Bhakti in Bhakti Yoga. So everything, ultimate goal is to reach Bhakti Yoga. Right? Otherwise, all other yogas on its own is useless. Yoga actually means Bhakti Yoga. All other yogas are progression towards the destination of Bhakti Yoga. Just like you go to school, the idea is to finish year 12. Right? If you stay in grade 1 and stay there permanently, then you're not making any progress, right? So similarly, different yoga systems are there. Right? And the purpose of the yoga system is to progress from one to another one. Right? From the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga, it's a long way to self-realization. It's a long way, right? It takes many, many lifetimes to do this. Karma Yoga without figurative result is the beginning of the path. So usually we do karma. Most of the people who do in the old who have no association with the Vedic knowledge, they just do karma. Karma means basically to do for sense gratification. Those activities for sense gratification. Right? Now when you have a little bit of knowledge by the association of devotees, you do a yoga. Yoga means to connect. So you do that sense gratification still with that same desire, but you connect it to the Lord. One very good example is when we cook at home, whom we are cooking for. Generally thinking what I want to eat, right? It's not what Krishna wants to eat, right? So it is for our own sense gratification, but we offer it to Krishna. So it becomes like Karma Yoga. Now Bhakti Yoga on its purest form is when you cook for Krishna, thinking what Krishna wants to eat. And then you offer it to him, and then you eat it. So there's a difference between, it's the same process, Somebody gives you cauliflower and potato, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to cook cauliflower and potato, for myself. I cook it, I eat it. That's karma. Now you take the same cauliflower and potato, you cook it. You still want to eat it. That's the idea behind it. But you offer it to Krishna, that becomes Karma Yoga. Now you take the same, you see there's a cauliflower and potato, and you say, okay, this would be nice, something Krishna will enjoy. Right? So you do the same process. Cook it, offer it to Krishna, and then eat it. And that becomes Bhakti Yoga. All three things, we did the same thing. What was the difference? The consciousness. the mentality, what we are thinking, how. So this is what it is. That's what Prabhupada said. It's all about consciousness. We change your consciousness a little bit, you can become a pure devotee. And how do you do that? Association of devotees, chanting of the holy name, reading Bhagavatam, where basically Bhagavatam which gives you both attachment to Krishna, knowledge about Krishna, and renunciation and bhakti. So when Karma Yoga increases in knowledge, so while you are doing Karma Yoga, you are actually doing this, then you come to the temple, you get a little bit of knowledge, you read Srila Prabhupada's big book, then what you get? You get knowledge and you get renunciation, right? That stage is called Jnana Yoga. So now you have progressed a little bit. Karma Yoga, which is down there, now you are in grade 2, you are at Jnana Yoga, because you have got a little bit of knowledge. When you do something, when somebody comes in the temple and says, please do this, they're doing it because you're asking them, but they don't have knowledge. But when they later on, when they realize that I'm doing some service to the devotees, I'm saving devotees, then that becomes much more powerful, right? For example, if we are distributing prasadam, in the street or something, right? And somebody comes and we give them prasadam, they don't know what they're eating, right? That's called sukriti. It's not pure devotional service because they do not understand it. Now if somebody understands it, they are taking mercy of Krishna, then it becomes prasada. The potency is much more. Now you might be thinking, it's still both prasada. Then you look at it the other way. Everything is prasada. Everything is given by Krishna. Right? If you look at it, whatever, the air we breathe is Krishna's air, is Krishna's prasadam, is Krishna's mercy. We are able to see another. Where? How? The sun. The sun, Krishna says, is my eyes. Without light, we can't see. Right? So in a way, everything is Krishna's prasad. But it's all in the mentality. When Jnana Yoga increases in meditation on the super soul by different physical processes, the mind is on him. It is called Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is now next level because you are meditating on that. Right? So first thing is when you are doing Karma Yoga, it's mostly with your body, right? Because you are using your physical body. When you get to Jnana Yoga, there's a little bit of intelligence involved now. Now you're understanding that and you're using your body to do this. Ashtanga Yoga is where you have taken to the next level, where you use your intelligence and you're focusing your mind in your meditation. So it's a gradual process. Now the mind is involved. And when one suppresses the Ashtanga Yoga and comes to the point of Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is called Bhakti Yoga culmination. So Bhakti Yoga is the top point. So usually when you do Ashtanga Yoga, you are meditating on the Super Soul. Right? But Super Soul is not the full understanding of Krishna. It's partial understanding of Krishna. When you come to the next level, when you understand Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we have got a particular relationship with Him, and then you start walking in that relationship, serving the Lord in that relationship, then you have reached the end of the goal. Actually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogis who is progressive is therefore a true path of eternal good fortune. So, if one is going one step to another step, then it's better. But unless you come to Bhakti Yoga, then there is no good fortune in there. So, one who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by a particular name. So if somebody is stuck in a place, right, he's doing Karma Yoga, so we say he's a Karma Yogi, he's a Jnana Yogi, he's a Bhakti Yogi, he's a Dhyana Yogi, like that. But the goal is to come to Bhakti Yoga. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to understand that he has suppressed all other yogas. So we have to understand that all the other parts, Karma Yoga, the Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga, they are all part of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti yoga does not need them. Right? Actually, without bhakti yoga, you even can't do that. So there's a little bit of bhakti yoga in each of those. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountain, of which the highest peak is Mount Everest, is considered to be a culmination. So there might be, just like we know about Himalaya, right? There's so many peaks, there's so many mountains, they've got different names in there. But the highest one is Mount Everest. Right? So similarly there's different processes, different yoga systems in there. But the highest is Bhakti Yoga. So that's what you need to get to. This stage of highest perfection in yoga can be attained only by Bhakti Yoga and is confirmed in all the Vedic literatures. So this is, we have to understand that. We are very fortunate, somehow or the other we didn't have to go through different stages, or we have already been through in our previous lives, whichever way. By mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by mercy of the Parampara, by mercy of our Guru Maharaj, we are able to do Bhakti Yoga. The beauty of our ISKCON is as soon as you come into this movement, you start doing devotional service, knowingly or unknowingly. Because listening to Bhagavatam is Bhakti Yoga, giving class is Bhakti Yoga. Sukadeva Goswami spoke and Parikshit Maharaj listened to it, and both of them became perfect. We come here, we look at beautiful deities of Panitai, Sri Radha Vallabha, Sri Jagannath, Bhadra, Subhadra. That's devotional service. If I done what? Everybody see other people, everybody does it. That's devotional service. We take prasadam, that's devotional service. So the more you come to the temple, the more you can associate with devotees, the more you get to do it automatically without realizing it. This is mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the efforts of Vedic literature automatically revealed. So you need two things. Krishna comes and instructs us in two different ways. One is internally and externally through the spiritual master. Right? So you have to have complete faith in the spiritual master. Once somebody asked you, Gurudev, Ishwanastama Krishna Goswami Maharaj, when should you accept a spiritual master? And his answer was, when you have complete faith in a spiritual master that he can take you out of this material world back to the spiritual world. Because unless you have complete faith, you cannot surrender to him completely. Right? So this is very important. Sometimes people say, you just accept a guru in the parampara. But if you don't have faith in that person, then it becomes difficult. Then you can start committing offenses, like that. So you should have complete faith in the spiritual master, and then you give yourself completely, and then everything becomes happy. Because whatever happens in our spiritual life is only by the mercy of the spiritual master. We have to understand that. I might be giving a class today, you might understand something, it's only by the mercy of your spiritual master that's good. Because he's the link of the whole parampara. This knowledge is not mine, this is the knowledge of the whole parampara coming down from Krishna. And the link is the spiritual master. There can be Shiksha Gurus in there, but that's the point. So you have to understand that. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from desires for material profit, either in this life or the next. Devoid of such inclination, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. So, Annavila Sunya Gyan Karmadi, in Śrīmad, in Nectar of Devotion, it is stated that. Once Srila Prabhupada, one of the devotees said, Srila Prabhupada, you said that Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is Krishna. He said, is it right to understand that nectar of devotion is Radharani? And Srila Prabhupada said yes. Because Radharani is the best devotee. So how to do devotional service, how to understand that side of it, you have to understand nectar of devotion. And he says, Anna Vilasunya, no other desires. Now the Gyan, Karma, anything, no yogic things, not trying to get mystic power and anything like that, And you should favorably worship Krishna. Krishnanu Bhakti Uttama and Uttam Bhakti like that. The Bhakti yogis always think of Krishna. Therefore, in the time of death, he can easily remember. He can easily transfer himself to Krishna Lok without even perceiving the pain of death. So as I was saying, they say that at the time of death, it's like scorpions biting you at the same time. That's how painful death is. And here, a devotee leaves his body without any pain. So the simple way to understand is, let's say you are in a car, right? And you got an old car, or you have a house which is breaking down. The windows are broken, the roof is leaking, right? And somebody tells you, okay, and you have this knowledge, I'll give you a better house, I'm gonna give you a better car, right? Would you readily leave that house and go into the next one, right? So if you have this knowledge, there is a better place for us in Krishna Lok, where everything is so nice. You don't get old, you don't get sick, you don't have to take birth again. There is no death, there is no disease, there's whatever you want. Even the desire is whatever you want, it provides you. If you have this knowledge about that place, then at the time of death, if you think of Krishna, then you can go there. Now, Jnanis, what do? They don't want to do anything with this material world, so they leave this material world. Naiti, everything, no, I'm not this, I'm not that. So they go to Brahmajyoti, right? But it's not complete, right? There's no suffering there. But the time comes when they have to leave that place, right? Because there's no enjoyment there. But if you go to a place where it is full of bliss, where Rama lives there, what does Rama mean? Treasure house of happiness, right? They say, you go to Brahman, right? It's like hoof of a cow. Have you seen how big is the hoof of a cow? When they walk, they make small holes in the ground, right? And there's water there. That's how much bliss is in that. And how much bliss is in Bhakti Yoga. When you go to Krishna Lok, it's like an ocean. Right? We chant that mantra, Cheto Darapanam Mahajanam, that 6 stars that he gives. And there's different stages of it. So, in the end, he says, Ananda Buddhi Vardhanam. You are basically swimming in the ocean of bliss. So if you know this, if you have this knowledge about this, then you can go there, right? This chapter more or less has been talking about how the demigods, are fighting with Vritasura. The demigods is solid loka, where there's a lot of sense gratification. Everything is much, much better than here. But there's still fear, Indra doesn't want to actually fight, right? When he throws his mace at Vritasura, he grabs it and throws it back at him. Now he had that thunderbolt, which was actually made to kill Vritasura. And he's scared, if I hit him, and he grabs it and he'll hit me, I'll die. So he even did not have enough faith in Krishna, the words of Vishnu, that this is how we'll be killed. That is the position of a demigod. So even the highest planets you can go to, there's no fun there. Eventually everything comes to end. So what we have to do is, we have to understand this. There is no place in this material world. Doesn't matter where you go, even if you become Brahma, one day you will have to die. Then you have to come back again. So focus should be how we can be Krishna conscious, how we can get out of here, and how I can go back to Krishna Lok. As I might say. So a few things that you can do in this, One of the most important things is that you chant your 16 rounds. That's most important. A lot of people I know after taking initiation, they get slack and they don't chant their rounds. It is most important that you chant your rounds. If you don't miss a meal, that's all right. Missing your chanting, absolutely not acceptable. Because a spiritual master cannot help you unless you try to help yourself. So there's a few things, Prabhupada didn't ask us to chant 64 rounds. He's made it 16. So, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us. This is what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And this is what our spiritual master has given us. You do this. You follow the 4 principles. I have spoken about more about Bhakti Yoga today. I wanted to cover what are the things you should do and what you shouldn't do, but I think that has to wait for another day. So we should accept the spiritual master. If you haven't got a spiritual master, completely surrender to him. And the duty of the spiritual master is to get the disciple out of the cycle of birth and death. And you should help your spiritual master by being Krishna consciousness, making progress in the spiritual life. And the best way to do is sadhu sangha. So come to the temple. The temple is a place of education. That's what we give here. Temple is a place of sadhu sangha. And basically the 5 things that Rupa Goswami said, you won't find it here. This is the embassy to God of Vrindavan. So we're going to stop here. Any comments, any questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice class. My question is, you said that we have to be pure if we want to go back to Krishna. But the question is, we have so many desires, so how can we become pure? And who can help us become pure?
Once His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada, how many pure devotees are in this world? You know what was the answer from Prabhupada?
0.
Huh?
0.
He said, how many people are in ISKCON? So anybody who is in this movement, who has taken shelter of a Guru, right? They're not 100% pure, but they will get pure. So we try our best, right? And Krishna will do the rest. So Krishna will protect whatever we have, and we will give whatever we lack. Right? So one thing you have to have this faith. Right? There are different levels. Shraddha, sadhu sangha, right? All this is basically faith. When the faith becomes so pure, right, so thick, that you have 100%, in faith in Krishna, it becomes Krishna prayer. So sugarcane juice is liquid, right? Then you take it to the next level, raw sugar, and final thing is candy. So it's the same thing, sugarcane. So it's all faith. So if you have faith that Krishna will protect me, right? And Krishna said that if I do my bit, Krishna will actually help me. Prabhupada will help you. You come to the temple. Whatever you're doing, you just continue doing this. Right? You come and listen to the class. Right? If you have any questions, you can answer. I know you chant every day, right? Right? You come to the temple, you have darshan of the deities, Right? If you just do this, you're going to go back to God in this lifetime. We have done some in our previous life. This is the beauty of Bhakti Yoga. Some people are around 20%, some are 50%, some are 17%. So whatever we have done, we are getting closer. Don't worry, it might take 1 lifetime, 10 lifetime, But we are on the path because our Guru, Srila Prabhupada, will help us there. Okay. So, who's going to help you? Devotees. Srila Prabhupada will help you. Every time you come, put your head on Srila Prabhupada's feet and ask him, that dust is very, very pure. Offer flowers to Prabhupada. Once somebody, when Srila Prabhupada was very sick, a doctor came and said, Doctor, devotee came and said, Prabhupada, you are still alive and you have got pictures or murti of yourself and everybody is offering flowers. Offering flowers means they are giving their seed to you. And this person thought Prabhupada did not know. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's why I came. So every time we offer flowers at the lotus feet of our spiritual master, we get purified, Every time we offer flowers to Srila Prabhupada, we get purified, This is the nature of the pure devotees. They don't care much about themselves. You look at Jayapataka Maharaj, it's amazing. Not only him, so many of these, devotees, Radhanath Maharaj, Radha Govinda Maharaj, still preaching, Prabhupada, what did he do, Age of 69, coming to the West, with no one he knows, negative. So this is the nature of the devotees. When you associate with devotees like that, then the path becomes very clear. Because when they bless, if Srila Prabhupada went and said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I know this guy hasn't done much, but he has sent me. Can you take him back? What would Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? So that's why when you said the devotees, if the devotees like you, then Krishna likes you. Okay. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or we stop here? Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai.